Getting color right and the white balance, yeah. And the recording is happening. Hello, my name is... Wow, that was aggressive. Hello, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and today we're doing a Patreon Q&A video. It's been a while since I've done one of those. It's really just an excuse, though, to talk about a couple updates. Mostly the fact that I have a new album out. It's out right now, today, November 10th. The album is called Rumspringa, and it is a collection of the down-tempo, abstract, chill tracks that I have made with modular and other hardware over the last year and a half. A lot of explorations into texture, pentatonic minor, pretty much exclusively. It's meant to be something that you can put on in headphones and just kind of like chill out to. It's not anything like crazy special. There's no like bangers on it. It's just meant to be a chill exploration of the kind of textures and experimentation that I really liked to do with my new setups, I guess. So check the video description for links to that. It's on Bandcamp. It's on all the major services. I think patrons are going to get it a little early, so they already got it, I guess. I'm not sorry, I can't travel in time to tell you that before this video came out. The art for the album is by the absolutely amazing Ren Farron. I followed them on Twitter a while ago, and they posted a picture, I think it was like a year ago, something that they had just like, it was like cast off like a scrap that they had found and posted up, and I was just like so struck by it. I'm like, that's what I want the next album cover to be. I already had the name. I'm like, this is perfect. So I'll put a link to their work in the description. You should go check them out. Really, really great artist, and I'm so happy that they were willing to share their art for this project. It's just really cool. So yeah, check the video description for Rumspringa. I hope you enjoy it. It was fun to make, and I really, really plan on diving more into that textural down-tempo stuff because this rack is turning into a monster for that. Why am I burping so much? I really, really hope to be doing more of that sort of textural down-tempo / IDM material. A lot of the stuff from this album was actually published as like jams on my second channel, Red Means Recording Ambient, which I started about a year ago to just like make weird ambient stuff, but it's grown a lot. I mean, there's like extended demos of stuff that I do for this channel, and lots of ambient experiments and some stuff that's like chill with beats. And lately I've started to do these like no talking text on screen walkthroughs of modules. So, you know, with this channel, I don't want it all to be modular stuff, and I want to make sure that I keep a diverse sort of like content rotation happening here. But I'm always working on modular pieces, and I'm always doing weird little patches, so I wanted an outlet for that. So if that's something that you're interested in, check the link in the description and subscribe to Red Beans Recording Ambient. Let's see, what else? Okay, new album, second channel. It's my birthday, November 10th of this year. I was born in 1979. I don't know what it means to be an adult, but overall, I'm really, really happy with how things are. And I'm really, really happy that you have given me the opportunity to do that. So thank you all for your support here and subscribing and the kind words. Like, all of this is because, you know, y'all left comments that made me feel like what I was doing was worthwhile, and that's rad. So thank you. Also, shout out to my Discord community for being some of the funniest, most supportive people I have ever met. It's just a joy to interact with y'all every day. And with that said, let's get to the Patreon Q&A. We got a bunch of stuff. Okay, first question is from Mind Gap. How do you develop variations in a song? Once I find a good sounding melody, I struggle to create a variation of it besides from putting it an octave higher or lower. Okay, well, I read this question. This was one of the first questions that I got on this post, and I was actually going to ask you for an example of a melody that you had written, because it's really dependent. Like, a lot of people ask questions about music production and arrangement, and they never think about context. Like, there's so much context that goes into a lot of these questions. Technical questions generally don't need quite as much context, but questions regarding music writing and sound design and stuff like that and mixing really need context. So you need to listen to music. And I will harp on this. Maybe I'll get another opportunity to harp on this in the rest of the video. But like, if you are at the stage where you can write music, and even if it's not like stuff that you're super happy with. But if you can like actually like understand what a note is and a melody and a scale and a chord, then you can listen to music that like you like and then pull from it information. So when it comes to melodies, a lot of it is going to depend on the progression of your song. Like if you write a melody in a particular key that is meant to go like over a particular chord progression, if you change that chord progression, you get an opportunity to use notes in a same scale to, have a different interpretation of that top melody line. So the first thing you can try to do is change the underlying tonic note of your piece, the actual chord progression, and see how a similar melody on top feels. Melodies are, at least catchy ones, are in great part about repetition. A lot of them depend on repetition of rhythm and repetition in structure. So for instance, you will have a particular rhythmic structure that you can separate from the notes themselves. And that repeats with maybe a little variation on like the second and fourth bar or something like that. And at the end, like say of 8 bars, there's going to be a bigger change. And this goes for pretty much any part that you write. You can kind of break it down into, 1, 2, 4, and 8 bar chunks and think about repetition and variation throughout. So if you have a melody, it's got note values and it has rhythmic values. And first of all, subtract the note values from it and just think about the rhythm. That's going to be something that you can change in your next iteration of the melody. And then think about the note values. Do you need to reinforce the chord progression that you've changed to? Like certain notes in like C minor will feel different in A flat major. Those are, 2 related keys to each other. So in E flat in C minor is the minor third, has a very distinct relationship with the C tonic, and E flat in A flat major is going to be the perfect fifth. They're going to offer different forms of tension against the tonic note. So in the scale that you're working in, think about how you can move to and from the safe notes, like the major third or minor third, the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth. Things are going to give you the sense of resolution, and use the other notes, like the ones that are more like in transit notes, to create a sort of like nice dissonance as you move through towards those safe spaces. I don't have a lot of music theory background. A lot of this, unfortunately, is through intuition and having practiced a lot of improvisation. So that's another thing you can try is, if you have the ability to play like a keyboard or something like that, then just try moving through the scale on top of the tonic note that you're playing, on top of the root note for the chord, and see what you get. Try doing intervals like every third, or try doing every fourth, and see how it feels. But ultimately, the DNA that you're asking for, like how do you use melodies in a song, you can either, read a book and learn about like actual melody in terms of music theory, or you can listen to music and figure out how they're writing their melodies, and then take that and make that something that you can then deploy later. That's really your 2 choices. You have to learn, you have to apply yourself. So the answer is in music or in knowledge, like from a book or something like that. And honestly, I have always been of the former camp. I've always tried to learn from the music that inspires me. So I wish I had a better, more cogent answer for you. I wish I had an Adam Neely sort of answer for you, but I don't. I think about this stuff in a very not formally structured way. So I hope that helps. God bless and good night. Oh, thank God, the next one's easier. Leica Lucas asks, what is your drink of choice and food preferences? Okay, well, it depends on what time of day it is. In the morning, it's espresso, espresso. And in the evening, it's alcohol. In between, we either have sparkling water, or Diet Coke. It's just caffeine and alcohol for me, pretty much. Food, I like all foods. I don't have a food preference. Depends on what I had the night before. Have you ever heard the joke that like being in a relationship is just asking each other what you want for dinner for the rest of your life? It's kind of true. Liam Freivelt asks, dragons or eldritch horrors? To what? Or to be scared by? To battle? Or to make out with? because I will make out with both. He also asks, personal favorite musical mode, if you have one. Mixolydian or pentatonic? Since I write way too much stuff in pentatonic, and when I say write, I use air quotes, because I'm depending on modular sequencers quite a bit to do stuff. And when you have a sequencer that's kind of like doing more probabilistic sequencing, you need to have it pick notes that will always go with other notes. And pentatonic is like the safest one for that. But when I'm playing, I like, blues scale, mixolydian, simple harmonic or natural minors or majors. Phrygian and Locrian are two more exotic ones that I've been playing around with a lot lately. Phrygian, if I remember correctly, is the more sort of exotic, like Eastern sounding scale, kind of Arabic. I'll drop into that if I have the option to in a performance in order to get a little sort of darker sound. And Locrian's just kind of cool sounding. Fun fact about this, the Digitone actually has some really great scale modes built into it. So if you're ever feeling stumped with a Digitone and like, oh, what should I do? Go into the scale settings and just pick a new scale, and it will only let you play in that scale. And it may knock some cool, new vibes out of your performance or out of your composition. I've been doing that a lot lately, and it's cool. Nicholas Sarver asks, number 1, Seattle just entered its 4 to 5 month wet and dark season. Does the Pacific Northwest weather affect your mood, creativity, or productivity? It probably does affect my mood. It was a lot worse when I was commuting in the dark. I definitely had like some seasonal affective disorder stuff going on. I personally really like this season, man. When the leaves started to fall and we started getting like that crisp fall air, I was just like, yes, Daddy, please give it to me. This is one of my favorite seasons in the Pacific Northwest. I also like it because it gets dark and I can use my LED lights, as opposed to before when it would be like light until like 10 p.m. and like, it was just weird. So shut the fuck up, phone. I feel like the benefits, just sort of in terms of mood, outweigh the seasonal affective disorder for me, at least right now. Also, this is traditionally the time when I release an album. I've been working all year on stuff, and this is usually when I put something out. So that's always something I look forward to. I love the fall. It's good. Number 2 is, what are you most looking forward to in 2022? It would be kind of cool to be able to go to maybe like Super Booth or something like that. I know one could this last year, but I just don't really feel... last year? This year. Yeah. I just didn't really feel comfortable traveling. I'm looking forward to focusing in 2022. I've been thinking about this a lot. This studio has exploded in gear. The amount of modular stuff that I have added to this space, you can't even see it all. It's just batshit insane. And I just went through a big sell-off of a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to consolidate, and it feels really, really good. I'm trying to get some systems down that are very purpose-built, that are very like I can perform this way on this system. And I've done that really, really well with the live system over here. So I really, really want to be able to get out there a little bit more via live streams or via actually maybe live performances and use this out and about. I finally feel comfortable enough to do that. Same thing with over here. I have made a lot of big changes over here, and including some today that you'll see in future videos. A lot of stuff has gone from my shelf of gear over here that you can't see. So 2022 for me is going to be about focus. I'm not going to say yes to every single manufacturer that comes and asks me to do a video on something. I'm going to be a lot more choosy about it. And I'm going to try to just sort of it's going to say focus again. Yeah. That's what it's going to be about. Taking all the shit that I learned and have been practicing in the last year and a half, 2 years, and actually deploying it, actually making good use of it. It's been a wonderful time for experimentation and deep learning, and now it's time to put that to work. Number 3, if you were able to give yourself a 3-day paid break to rest and recuperate, what would you do with those days? I actually have been doing that. In case you don't know, for people watching, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was fired from my main job, video editing, and I went to doing this stuff full time, with most of my income coming from teaching, doing music and production lessons online, and it's been wonderful. But I found that even with the day, I basically had 2.5 days off each week. It was okay, but I wasn't really able to get deep dive into anything, and I realized that I had more time than I thought I did. So I've been taking a week at the beginning of every month to myself and just going crazy with like odd tasks, getting stuff worked out, that I needed to do, rearranging stuff, deep diving into a module here or there, and just filming videos that I've been meaning to film. And it's been great. I realized that like I needed to make time for relaxation. Like I've been playing a shit ton of Breath of the Wild and it's been fantastic. But also focusing on the tasks that I really needed to do. And for me, being busy and productive is what I like to do. I like being productive. And that can be in a lot of different ways. So the time that I have been taking for myself at the beginning of each month has been incredibly good in terms of my mental health and also just being productive and being able to do more stuff for the channel and for myself. So I'm already doing it. It's good. Number 4, favorite pizza toppings. Any toppings? Daddy. I mean, meat's always good. I'm not going to say no to like a meat-heavy Supreme pizza. I do really like the classic Supreme. I do like pineapple on my pizza. I will fuck with a pineapple pizza till the day I die. There's a couple pizza places around here that have some interesting toppings on them, like some seasonal toppings, and there's been some really good stuff. But there's also like a Middle Eastern pizza place that has like a Euro pizza, like a halal pie, stuff like that. That's been really, really tasty too. Pizza with tzatziki sauce is like, it feels like a sin. Adam Hilton asks, number 1, what are some of your new... How many of these do we have? Okay, good. Whew. Thought there was like a billion different questions here. What are we doing? 23 minutes? Fuck. Adam Hilton asks, number 1, what are some of your new favorite genres, artists of the past year or so? I know you've spoken to this in the past, but curious, is there anything new that's crossed your radar? No. I don't listen to music. Don't have time for it. My brain is always busy. I do make a habit to watch every new Baby No Money video, though, because I really like what they're doing. My excuse for this is that, like, I paid a lot of attention to music growing up, like a lot. It was all I did. And I have so much in my brain that I'm still working on it. And I don't really feel the need to chase like new trends in music because a lot of the stuff that's still coming out now is iterative. Like music just doesn't like change like that. Like it's happens in small spurts. So as long as I check in now and then, like I'm not really missing anything. I'm still chasing the dragon of like the music that I grew up with. So yeah, that's just how it go. Favorite video game of 2021. It's Breath of the Wild. I got all the way to the end of Metroid Prime. I really, really liked it. And then I just did not give a shit about beating the final boss. And I actually had a really hard time getting into Breath of the Wild at first until I like looked up a little strategy guide on where the first shrines were. And after that, it's all I've been doing. It's just so good. It's so good. Christian Adams writes, what's one of your favorite ways to find creative inspiration? For me at this point, I just kind of like plug things into other things and see how it sounds. One of the things that's happened with me doing this as long as I have been in the way that I have been, like for YouTube, is that I've started to understand that for me, how can I put this? My feeling of what listenable music is has shifted a lot. I used to be very, very obsessed with highly intricate, highly produced, arranged music where everything was just perfectly placed where it needed to be. And now I'm totally okay with like turning on an interesting oscillator with an arpeggio, giving it some like modulation and running it through a couple good effects and just like putting that in headphones and then like, that's it. Like I'm happy now. A lot of my inspiration comes from just like patching stuff together and listening to what it sounds like, or sitting down with a piece of gear and putting my hands on it and, making something with it that feels alive, and evocative. I hate the hardware versus software debate, but I really do think that there is something to a hardware interface where you can sit and touch something and focus on it more so. You can actually focus on that one thing. In the past, my inspiration came from new music that I heard. I always wanted to figure out how to execute on the techniques, whether or not that was a production technique or a songwriting technique that I heard in the music that I liked. So that's how I spent like the first like 3 decades of trying to produce and being inspired, was always just like chasing the tail of music that I heard and that I loved. And now I'm much more meditative about it, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, this is cool. I'm gonna make 6 hours of arpeggios. You can do what you want. XYZ asks, please describe some of the gritty work that is never obvious in the published videos, but they couldn't happen without it. Editing. Actually, a really great example for this is like, there's a video I'm have coming out soon on a synth that's right out of frame. That's because the embargo isn't up on it yet, but I'm really, really happy with it. But holy moly, it was a pain in the ass to film. I had to come up with like, different camera angles for every part. I had multi-track this synth over and over again. Ultimately, like, you really can't tell what I'm doing in it. Like when you watch, you can tell when I'm playing parts on the keyboard, but in terms of like what I'm doing on the panel, it's like not really that obvious. I think the most annoying thing about filming and making videos is like, there is no real like permanent place for a camera to live in my setup. I'm very fortunate to have this space that I work in, but there's still like really hard to get angles right. So that's always a pain in the ass. Editing is the other thing that takes up a bunch of time. I actually really like editing and color grading and all that kind of stuff. Every new piece of gear that comes in that I do something on, I do have to learn. That's probably the most time-consuming thing that you don't see is the learning process and the experimentation and stuff like that. But by golly, the moment that I have something I'm happy with, it usually gets a little jam video and goes up on the ambient channel. So that's always something that I get to look forward to, is that kind of aha moment. Disco Stew asks, after all the lessons you've given, what have you learned? That's a really good question. And I actually want to do a whole video about teaching and what I've learned from it so far, because it's been a very interesting process for me to learn how to listen and learn how to give advice. There are things that I am finding that are very, very common amongst people. And the number one thing, and I mentioned this before, and I mentioned I'd harp on it again, but the number one thing I see from people is that they disconnect their process, their struggle, their desire to make music from the music that inspired them to make music in the first place. What do I mean by that? Well, people are all like, what do I do with this 8-bar loop? What do I, like, how do I write a chord progression? How do I write a melody? Like, I don't know how to do drums. These are all valid questions, and I'm really happy to walk through, like, examples of this kind of stuff with people. Remember how I said earlier that context is important? And the number one thing that I always want people to do is place what they're doing in the context of the world of music that got them to where they are now. And that has nothing to do with their aptitude for music theory or anything like that. That's more just about like, what artists inspire you? Like, what genres are they in? Like, have you done any research into them? Have you like tried to figure out what equipment they use? There's just like all of this information that is right there for you, for anybody. And what I have learned is that a lot of people don't make that connection. And so one of the things I'm always trying to do is connect people with that concept so that they can hopefully get a more direct way of connecting with the music that's out there that they love, and also ways to find information, serve themselves in that process. That's the number one thing that I've learned. Number two is that everybody's unique. I've very much enjoyed the process of trying to find ways to engage with the individuals on the level that they best respond to. Also, that VCV rack is amazing, and it's the best thing somebody who's teaching people modular could ever ask for. It's so good. If you've ever thought about getting into modular, dip into VCV rack, because it's great. And hey, if you need a lesson, you know where to call. That's right. Don Smith asks, Happy birthday, Jeremy. That's not a question, Dawn. What are your top 3 most versatile Eurorack modules that you enjoy playing the most? Acid Rain Maestro, WMD Metron. I'll get to the third one in just a second. Oh, you know what it is. The third one is any of the noise engineering Versio effect modules. And I'll explain that in just a second. So, what is Maestro? Maestro is a 6-channel automation lane voltage generator for your Eurorack system. Each of these 6 can instantly be any of these note values here, so 16th notes, 32nd notes, 8th notes, etc. And all these shapes, so ramps, triangles, highs, squares, randoms. And so instantly, by pressing a channel, its value and shape, it instantly creates that shape going out in voltage, and yeah, it's great. But if you hit a channel, and then you hit chain, and then hit a note value, and then a shape, and then continue to do that, it creates a chain of those going out. So you basically can create complex automation lanes in for voltage coming out of this thing. You can save, you can mute. It's so easy to get really cool voltage shapes out, and they're all synced. Why do I keep hitting this? Maestro is the shit. I love it so much, and that's why it's here all the time. Metron. This is a 16-channel gate sequencer. And for me, gates and triggers are the number one thing that's important in Eurorack. Basically, these act as your clocks, as your note on events, as your drum triggers, and this becomes the master control basically for all the sequences in my rack, because I grab pitch data from other things, and then I use this to send out the trigger data or gate data that triggers like envelopes and filters and drums and all that. There's a lot of advanced features in it. There's mute groups. It's very visual and very like hands-on, and it was a splurge for me. Patchworks, Matt EasyBot, he was just like singing its praises for a long time, and I kind of was like, wow, it's so expensive and so big. And it is. It's both of those things. But holy moly, it is the best. And yeah, I just love it to death. It's really, really good. I've already talked about Pamela's new workout, which is next to that. Honestly, I'd probably pick that as my third, but I'm going to sing the praises of the Noise Engineering Versio modules. I can't show you them. They're back here. But what they are Noise Engineering makes these effect modules, and right now there's 4 that you can buy on hardware. Imitor, Desmodus, Ruina, and the new Mellitus. Desmodus is a reverb, Imitor is a 12-tap delay, Ruina is the most gnarly distortion I've ever heard. It's so good. And then Mellitus is the granular one. The reason I'm going to recommend these, any of them, is because you can flash any of the firmwares for any of them onto any of them. So let's say you have the Desmodus, the reverb, and you want to try out the distortion. Just hook it up to your computer via a USB cable, go to their customer portal, boot the Daisy, the Electrosmith Daisy that they run on into boot mode, and through Chrome, you can put any of the other ones on there, including ones that they don't have hardware for yet, which is super cool. If that bugs you in terms of the faceplates, Winterbloom makes faceplates for them, so you can, like, as you flash them, you can put the faceplate on there and have access to all the, like, actually written controls. And the reason that I'm recommending this, if it's not already obvious, is because you get access to these, like, amazing effects. They really are, like, second to none. In fact, almost my entire effect row in this rack is Noise Engineering effects. Don't tell anyone, but I'm gonna get rid of my mutable instruments beads, and I'm gonna replace it with a Mellitus because it's really good. I will have a jam on the second channel released when the embargo for the ARP 2600 goes. That is my first jam with Mellitus, and it's rings into Mellitus, which is a granular, like, effect cloud kind of thing. It is amazing. I turned up the blend, and I didn't need to do anything. I was just like, this is fucking astounding. If you want some of the coolest effects that are out there, and also being able to switch them out on the fly, the Versio series is just fantastic. Like, it's so good. So good. Sebastian Martinez asks, happy birthday. Again, not a fucking when do you consider a song should be part of an album instead of just a one-off video on the channel or something similar? That's a really good question. and it's hard to answer. So I just, Rumspringa is now out, the new album that's like a collection of tracks. So when I write a track for or perform a track for one of the channels, it goes into a folder of, the Ableton session for it goes into a folder that I will then sort through to put out something later. This one was really hard because I have a bunch of tracks. You Can't Break Me, Determinism, some that you haven't heard yet. Links in the description to some of those where like there's like singing, they're a lot more aggressive, they're a lot more poppy, and they did not fit on this at all. And there were even some other tracks that I wanted to like get out there that didn't fit on this at all. You kind of have to make the decision for what's best for the collection of those songs. You have to ask yourself, what is the vibe that I'm trying to create? Like, that's always what it comes down to, is what will this do to somebody if they put it on, and commit to listening to it? What will it do to their demeanor? What will it do to their feelings? I ask myself about that per track, and I ask myself about that for the release, and then I decide whether or not the track is appropriate for the release. So it's a fun process. It's like putting together a compilation of some kind. Some tracks are just straight up one-offs, like Tight Ship from a while ago, Bees, Depression is here. Like, some of those are just like, I'm not going to write a whole album in this style. Like, just go ahead and put it out as a single. A lot of that is determined by like whether or not people ask for it, like, because I'm bad at releasing singles. DV Paladin asks, with so many instruments devices at hand, how do you decide what is most appropriate for use at a song at any given time? Sounds available, workflow ease, whichever is in reach at the time. Okay, so I have very few things in the studio not hooked up and ready to go. But they're all in like focus stations. I have constructed stations that are purpose-built, like this one over here is like, I can sing and play modular at the same time. This one over here I actually just got rid of the vocal thing for because I was tired of singing. And this is now much more geared towards like large scale ambient and down tempo and just like the big stuff, like big sound, because there's just so much shit over here. I do try to leave myself some spaces to swap things out. So right now the Hydrosynth is up here. This might get swapped out for something later, depending on what I'm trying to achieve with the piece. For instance, I could put the wave state up here and get access to the really, really amazing sampling stuff that it does. Or not sampling, but sample playback stuff that it does. Same thing for what's right here right now. I can put something else here and get a different timbre. And that's really about just sort of deciding, one, what's fun to play with, and two, what's most appropriate for the job. And I guess that comes with getting to know your gear. So, I know that I'll get certain results out of the mod wave that I won't get out of the wave state, and vice versa. I know that there are certain things I'll get out of the Hydrosynth that I won't get out of something else. It's about sound, and it's also about workflow and what the result will be from it. It's a tool, right? Like, it's a creative tool. So I ask myself what's appropriate, and then I try to integrate that into the workflow, whether or not that's by putting something in a rack, or whether or not that's about putting something next to the rack, I guess. Same goes for plugins and effects and stuff like that. It's all about context and what the best tool for the job is at that time. Soundkeep says, I am wondering if you have any experience using stereo filters in modular. From what I see, there are very... I'm just going to laugh at this because, okay, I'll just finish the question, but I'm wondering if you have any experience using stereo filters in modular. From what I see available, there are very few true stereo filters such as the Rossum Linearis. Are there any advantages to using a stereo filter that are not immediate obvious? Oh, Gary, Soundkeep. Zagreb stereo filter from Zayok right here, baby. Get it. It's tiny. It's amazing. It sounds fantastic. I have a video that's going to come out on this on the second channel soon-ish. Again, it's waiting on the embargo for whatever this is right here to come out. Also, the Moonphase stereo filter by Patching Panda is really, really cool. I've got a video about that on the second channel. Both are true stereo filters, and both of them offer something that's very unique for stereo filters, and that is the peaking. So you have a left and a right, and you have this, like, let's say it's just a low pass, right? Okay, so in a non-stereo filter, the low pass goes boop, and that's it. Turn it up, turn it down, but you have a stereo image coming in and a stereo image coming out. That's sort of like stereo pass-through. But with the spread or peaking kind of thing, so on the Zagreb, oh my god, I hate trying to pronounce Zayek's names. On the Zagreb, If you have a low pass and you turn the spread up, which is only available by CV on that one, the peaks will be different in the left and the right for where that cutoff frequency is. And the moon phase from Patching Panda takes that a whole step further because it's got like a whole bunch of different filter types that are selectable with a button. And the way that those peak is going to be different. So you could have like a high pass on one side and a band pass on the other side or something like that. Both of those are really, really, really great options. I pointed to the Zagger in here just because it's in my rack right now, but the Patching Panda Moon Phase is also a really, really awesome stereo filter. You're right, there really aren't a ton out there. Like I was using the Morgasmatron and also Blades as a stereo filter, but they're not really intended to be that way. Like they work okay that way. I mean, you can make them work that way, but the Zagger from Zayok and the Patching Panda Moon Phase are the ones that I would recommend as true stereo filters that actually offer something unique in stereo. Both of them actually will also create a stereo image from a mono input, which is really, really, really cool. I think you've mentioned you play guitar. Can you show us your guitars and maybe some playing? No. I used to play a lot. And that's all I can do now. Growing up as a keyboard player... Hi, buddy. Up, up, up. Say hi, Riker. Whoa, whoa, good boy. Now get out. It was hard for me to wrap my head around the sort of isomorphic layout of how guitars work. I can still, like, you know, hook it up to an effects pedal or something like that and get a guitar texture out of it. And I'm actually planning on doing that a lot more. I'm getting a R-bar, the Instro R-bar, and I'm going to try to make like a little... Will you stop? Hi. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I've been filming for like 50 minutes, and I really hope that this video is... Cat. I've been filming for like 50 minutes, so hopefully I'll be able to edit this down to something reasonable. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support on the channel. I really appreciate it. This is a wild thing to be able to do professionally, and I'm very, very happy to be here, like ridiculously. Like this is, it's just really cool. So yeah, you take care, have a great fall, all that stuff, and I'll see you soon. Get down. Good. My name is Jeremy, this is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.